all of last year. I mean, we're a little over a year old now. And of course, welcome to the Battle Crew and all of our amazing viewers and listeners. We've been doing the show for a little over a year now, and the show has grown like gangbusters. We make the leaderboard on Rumble almost every single day, which is an unbelievable honor. It's a testament to you all. But I came up with that intro paragraph because that is what last year was like, what it felt like in politics. I got to say, last year, and I have had my name on the ballot in two pretty damn crazy election cycles in 2020 and then again in 2022. So I got to see how things worked behind the curtain. Ultimately, running for office was an unbelievable honor. My favorite part about it was getting to meet the people, learning how, the whole process works as somebody that's an outsider. All that was so cool. But last year, I got to say, was by far the craziest year in American politics. Well, probably ever. I mean, it was just crazy what this country endured. And so I thought, got to have an intro to the show that's aggressive, that's fierce, that speaks directly to the heart of what it means to be an American conservative, a patriot, someone who loves this country. Because really think about it, folks, conservatives, for the most part, not for the most part, certainly since I got involved in politics, but really for even longer than that, have not gotten a fair shake in the media, and that's putting it kindly. But since President Trump has come down that golden escalator, the amount of propaganda that has been foisted on the American people and ire of the federal government directed at conservatives, I've never seen anything like it in my life. So for all of us, we are, I am a base Republican. I am who I am. Many of you all know. I mean, look, one of the reasons why when I talked to my father about running for office is, Sean, you're going to be a terrible politician. And he wasn't trying to be rude. He's just like, you don't know how to lie. You don't know how to bullshit people. And that's true. I wear my heart on my sleeve. You know how I feel about any given issue. I don't hold anything back. That's just how I am. But at least you're getting the authentic me. And one of the promises I used to make to people on the campaign trail all the time was like, look, we might not always agree, but what makes me different from everybody else is that you're always going to know exactly how we feel. So if governing is about building consensus and working on behalf of the American people, well, hey, look, step one of that is knowing where I'm coming from and knowing how I feel on a certain issue. Without that, how do you negotiate? If it's all smoke and mirrors all the time, if consensus is to be had, how do you come to it? And so that was part of my pitch, and I think it resonated with the American people. But we've had to be tough. We've had to be fierce. We've had to be strong. We've had to be courageous. Conservatives have had a lot on the line in the last 10 years. I've seen so many people get debanked, get canceled, get thrown off social media. The current president of the United States was canceled and thrown off social media. And he was thrown off social media when he was still the sitting president. Think about that. Think about how dangerous that situation was for this country. Think about how close we came to the brink. And think about, it wasn't just President Trump getting thrown off of social media while he was the sitting president. I mean, the national security implications of that are profound, right? If there was a disaster or something like that, how would the president really get his message out? Be a hell of a lot more difficult to do with social media companies kicking him off or censoring him or whatever. But beyond that, everything that our government did to Donald Trump in the 4 years that he was out of office was, it was just shameful conduct for sure. And again, that's putting it lightly. But what we had was the Biden administration, taking a page out of Soviet Russia or, communist China and prosecuting a political opponent, not just prosecuting Donald Trump. The lawfare was horrific and terrible in so many ways, but the lawfare was it was constructed in a very sinister way. We've talked about this on this show for the better part of a year, but you had a series of cases that brought forth false allegations to destroy President Trump's reputation and any potential legacy, right? You had lawsuits that were leveled right at his businesses. So all the hard work that this man put into building his businesses and reshaping the skyline of New York City, and then passing that off to his amazing children, which is what people who create businesses like that tend to do. They keep it in the family, right? All of that, the power of our government, the full weight of the federal and the state government in New York, for example, went after everything that President Trump had done in his businesses, all the things that he's accomplished, and tried to take that from him. I mean, seriously, let that sink in. And then there was a pillar of the lawfare that was laser focused on Trump's liberty. And the idea that, the Biden Department of Justice, under direction of Merrick Garland, was going to try to put Donald Trump in jail for the rest of his life. Let that sink in, Battle Crew. And for what? A bunch of bogus, bullshit, conjured up, fake crimes. And if they could do that to Donald Trump, well, hell, they need nothing to do it to regular, ordinary Americans. And the government has done it to regular, ordinary Americans, and lives have been lost. And you heard President Trump say that from the bully pulpit, from the podium, as president. Twice he said it in his first term, and he said it again a few times in his second term about how the Biden administration and the government under the Biden administration, our government, by the way, they work for the American taxpayer, unelected bureaucrats, ruin people's lives, ordinary Americans' lives, because they disagreed with the outcome of 2020. They were allies of President Trump. It doesn't matter. Anyone with half a brain in their head, and I realize that most of the corporate media is excluded from this because they still talk about these cases as if they had any merit whatsoever. They didn't. 1512C, obstruction of an official proceeding, for example, was a novel legal theory used to enhance misdemeanor sentences to justify throwing ordinary American citizens in jail for far longer than they needed to be for a mostly peaceful protest. Meanwhile, during the summer of love, you had Black Lives Matter, you had Antifa rampage across this country, burn down whole cities. They killed people, caused billions of dollars of damage. They laid siege to the White House. They bloodied and battered 40 plus uniformed Secret Service, almost next to no charges for most of those people. And if they did have charges, they were dropped. I mean, think about how close we came to the brink. I mean, this is why I say, look, I know I talk about spirituality on this show. I've told you all very honestly that I have struggled a lot with my faith throughout the course of my life. Not that I'm not a believer. I've always been a believer. I'm a Catholic. I'm a proud Catholic. I wear this St. Christopher medal that my grandfather gave me my grandmother gave me after my grandfather died. It's been in my family for a long time. Almost has a legendary quality. But my point is, I've always struggled with my faith. But over the last several years, since being involved in politics, coming back from Afghanistan, I don't know how I came back alive, but for some reason I did. Running for office a couple times, being at the July 13th rally, right in the path of the bullets, Corey Comparator and his amazing family sitting, 10, 15 feet right behind my wife and I. We experienced all of these just crazy, crazy things. And I've never been more convinced, confronted with those hardships And yeah, even some of the terrible things that I went through on my Senate race, not just I and me, but my family went through on my Senate race. I look at these things and I'm thankful to God that I've had the hardships, because I think they've made me a better, stronger person. I think they've made my family better, stronger. But it's also led me to believe that God, whatever you believe, uses people in very specific ways. And I've said this to you all before, and I'll say it again. I don't think there's a single planet on the face, or a single person, rather, excuse me, a single person on the face of the planet that could have endured what was thrown at Donald Trump, but Donald Trump himself. And I believe that God put him in that place for the express sole purpose of saving this country. Maybe President Trump didn't even know it. I don't know. Maybe he does now. I don't know. But you think about what he went through. I mean, I'll tell you what, I know I don't want to speak for anybody who's listening and watching this show, but I'll come over to the live chat and ask you, is there anybody in the live chat that could have withstood, the financial ravaging that lawfare waged against Trump? Could any of us manage that financially without being completely bankrupt? Yes or no? I mean, the first response ticked off Yinzer, someone after my own heart from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yes, I'm a ticked off Yinzer as well. But I'm seeing lots of no's. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. So so there's President Trump. He goes through this law. I mean, spent tens of millions. I wouldn't be surprised if he spent over $100 million on these cases. He's probably the only person in the world that could have done that was also running for president at that time, that also was a sitting president before. So it's not just a matter of having billions of dollars in the bank. It's like the guy was already president. He was a damn good president. And decides, instead of riding off into the sunset, which he could have done with his supermodel wife and his awesome family, by the way, his family is awesome, right? I mean, you could tell a lot about a person, the quality of the man or woman, based on the family members that they raise. And President Trump hit a home run with each and every one of his kids and his grandkids. I mean, he's got a great family. Good people. He could have rode off into the sunset with each and every one of them, but he said, no, I'm going to go through this gauntlet again. And what's crazy to me is that in many ways, the media still doesn't seem to understand it. They don't seem to understand why, President Trump won this historic mandate. I'll tell you another thing. The Democrats sure as hell don't understand why President Trump won. They are leaderless, and they know it, and they are struggling. And I'm going to tell you, 2026 is going to be here very, very soon. It's too early to read the tea leaves on what the midterms will look like. But I'll tell you, the Democrats are in a real rough spot. They don't really have a message. President Trump, by contrast, has never been more popular, and he continues to get more and more popular because he's making good on his promises to the American people. And we'll get in. So we're going to talk about the tariffs. We're going to talk about, Secretary Hegseth going to the border and the idea that now we have active duty troops protecting our own border, protecting our own sovereignty for the first time. I mean, the DOD has always been involved with protecting our border, but not to the level that President Trump is asking for the Department of Defense to be involved. But we're going to talk about all this stuff on the show. But President Trump has never been more popular. And the media and sure as hell the Democrats don't get it. But the media seems to they don't understand either. And I'm going to tell you, they keep trying to attack President Trump in the old way. It's almost as if they don't realize that they've thrown everything but the kitchen sink, including, how much is this? They've thrown everything at President Trump. President Trump has endured he endured 2 assassination attempts. No one in this country has ever had to endure more to attain the office of president. No one. I mean, Maybe you can make an argument for Lincoln, but no, nobody. President Trump is up there at the top. Even if you could make an argument for others, he sure as hell he's up there in the top handful of presidents that have had to just sacrifice an extraordinary amount to be in that office. And my point is, he did it all for us, but the media doesn't really understand why he's more popular than he's ever been and why their attacks aren't working. Now, by the way, I don't think there's anything that they can do to shake this man's popularity for the next 4 years in the White House. I don't think there's anything the media can do. I mean, they have tried everything. They've tried everything. So before the show went live, got some news that Senator Collins of Maine, Republican from Maine, is going to vote for Tulsi Gabbard to serve as the Director of National Intelligence. I want to come over into the live chat. Did you hear me, friends? Senator Collins from Maine, as of this moment, well, she said she intends to vote yes on Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. Let me ask you, how do you all feel about that? That's a pretty damn good thing, right? Yes? I'm going to hear you. I want to hear what you think. But let me tell you about Suzanne Collins. And I've told you this before, but I want to reiterate for people who are listening and watching maybe for the first time. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing that this is very good for Tulsi. Suzanne Collins is in a very, very tough spot. very, very tough spot. And yes, Michael, all of President Trump's picks should be confirmed. And I'm going to tell you why here in a second. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but I'm going to give you another thing in your kit bag to show you why it's so important that all of President Trump's nominees be confirmed. But Suzanne Collins is in a tough spot. She's a Republican that represents a very liberal state, and we need her. I'm telling you, I would rather have a Republican, and I know it's frustrating. Look, I get it. It's frustrating because the Democrats don't have these problems. They just don't. I mean, they do have Democrats in swing states, but by and large, they all vote the exact same way. I mean, you know my theory of we the people versus they the people, right? Battle Crew. You've all heard my theory of we the people versus they the people and the differences between the modern Democrat Party and the modern Republican Party, right? Do you need me to explain it again? If you do, just say yes, and I'll lay it out there for first-time listeners or viewers. But I'm glad we've got Susan Collins in that seat. I would rather have a Republican that's with us 50% of the time than a radical Democrat that's never with us, especially in the Senate where the margins are so thin. You can't say, okay, people are saying yes, they know. Okay, you got it. Can't say the same about Lisa Murkowski. And honestly, it confuses the daylights out of me why we have some Republicans in deep red states that just make these nominations really tough. But it's really good news. It's really good news that Senator Collins is going to vote for Tulsi Gabbard, and it's a good thing. So I got this from Insurrection Barbie, or if you want to follow her, I think it's her. I don't know. I just see Insurrection Barbie, and I'm assuming. But it's under Defiantly Free is the tag. This is, rarely do I say this, but I want to go out on a limb and say this. But this is one of the best accounts on X. Just tons of great information. And Defiantly Free says, you should go follow her. There's only 4 times that the Senate voted no for a president's cabinet appointments. Roger Taney, 1834, Caleb Cushing, 1843, Henry Stanberry, 1868, Lewis Strauss in 1959. She says there were people who withdrew before the vote, but that's not the case here. She goes on to say Republican senators who vote no will be making history in the worst way possible. To vote no on the cabinet appointments of a president who won all 7 swing states and the popular vote, the House and the Senate, for the first time in 66 years would be an epic miscalculation. I could not agree more. It has never been more important. If Republicans want to continue to grow our coalition, and it is an intellectually diverse coalition. Look at Tulsi Gabbard. Look at RFK. Let me tell you, there are probably many things that RFK and Tulsi and I disagree on. Many. But guess what? They're a part of the America First movement now, and this is a big tent movement. And if we are to continue to build this coalition, I mean, because the goal is to keep winning. You know, when I've said that the Democrat Party is an existential threat to this country, their policies are hugely detrimental to what it means to live in a free society. Democrats in the 1950s, 1960s used to be anti-war. Democrats used to be anti-government. Democrats used to be the free thinkers for the most part. I never thought I'd live to see the day where a Democrat was touting the endorsement of Liz Cheney, but Kamala Harris did. Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney's daughter, Liz Cheney. Really, the architect of the Iraq War? Like I thought George W. Bush was a war criminal. Like that Democrat Party, now they're the pro-war party. Democrats are now the party of the CIA. Really? Never thought I'd see that day, but here we are. They've become increasingly authoritarian and out of touch with the American people. They've clearly demonstrated over the last 4 years that they're willing to use the weight and power and might of the enormous resources of the U.S. federal government to crush dissent. That makes them dangerous. They are dangerous, bordering on communist, fascist. Okay, I've got to take a quick break because I've been talking for a very long time now. I'm sorry. I got right into the show and I went right at it. But I want to tell you real quickly, smash that like button, the little gray thumb beneath the video. It helps us make the leaderboard. Smash it. When you smash the like button, it goes from gray to green. It's kind of cool and it really helps the show. So go ahead and do that. And in the meantime, let me tell you about American Alternative Assets. I want to tell you about some of my great friends. And you guessed it, it's the team at American Alternative Assets. I know these patriots, and like the brave men I served with in combat, they too understand what it means to protect American families. They share our warrior spirit and dedication to this great nation. You know, as someone who has led soldiers in battle, I'm deeply concerned because for the first time in our nation's history, we're spending more on interest payments than on our brave men and women in uniform. And that's why I've asked my trusted friends at American Alternative Assets to create a special wealth protection guide for every single member of the battle crew. These are the same exact people in the same company that I trust with my own family's future. And right now, they're offering every member of the battle crew up to $10,000 in free silver, plus a free American-made safe. So I would not recommend them at all if I didn't believe in them completely. They even created a really cool website for us. It's called SeanLovesGold.com. Tell them your friend Sean sent you and stand with patriots who put America first. Again, the website is SeanLovesGold.com. All you got to do, fill it out. You get a chance to win $10,000 in free silver plus a free American safe. It's awesome. It helps support the show. We should definitely support companies that support independent media like Battleground Live. Okay. Let me tell you, do a quick weekend update, and then I jumped right into the show. Let me do a quick weekend update, and then we'll go to Pete Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth's first trip to the southern border. So the reason why I was late in the live chat today was that, I always tell you all, I love talking to you. I love being with you all an hour before the show in the live chat. We're building a community here, and that the mission of that community is to save this country. The reason why I was 30 minutes late is that my daughter, I told you she made the basketball team this year. She never played basketball before, and she really risked a lot to go try out for this team. And it isn't the easiest thing in the world for an 8th grade girl to try out on a team having no experience, in that given sport, especially when there are other girls on the team that have been playing for years. So I was like very proud of her. Well, she made the team. And we went to her game. But the problem with the junior high games is that they're all at like 3:30 during the workday. They make it really, really hard with the show being at 5 to make it to the game, go see the game, and then come back and be ready for the show. But I said, you know what, screw it. It's one of her last home games, and I'm just so proud of everything that she's accomplished. So I said, whatever, screw it. We'll go to the game. We'll get back here. We'll get back here a little bit late, but so what? Like, let's go support her. And so Commander Melanie and I did that, and we met my dad there. But I have to tell you, I dropped her off at school this morning, and she kind of arrived at the school at the same time that a lot of her basketball teammates did. And they kind of ran over to her, like just like a typical team would. And they're all laughing and joking around. And I thought, like, man, it just made me proud to be, her father, but also just a father across the board. There is nothing cooler than seeing your kids in their element do really what they like and what they love to do. And, seeing her with her teammates, before school in that brief moment when I dropped her off, and then again on the court, whether she's playing or not, it doesn't matter. It's just all of those lessons, and all of those, even the times when you're not in the court, maybe you're in the locker room or on the bus, and all the camaraderie and the lessons that you learn playing a team sport, actually competing, winning and losing, right? The real world is, when there are lots and lots of winning and losing in the real world, right? And I just think that there are so many lessons that are inherent in a team sport, and it's awesome that gets to be a part of that. And it's not just Emma. My other daughter, Natalie, she's going through these tryouts at her school for volleyball. She's had these first couple tryouts, and let me tell you, Natalie has gone all in on this volleyball stuff, just like Emma is for basketball. But Natalie's one of those kids where you don't have to tell her to practice. She's out there every day, just practicing by herself, hitting the ball off the wall, hitting the ball over the net. You don't have to tell her to practice. She's practicing for a couple hours a day. Never played volleyball on a team in her life. And, she's gone to a couple of the open gyms now in prep for the school tryouts. And I'm telling you, the amount of progress that this young woman has made over the last year is just nothing short of extraordinary. And, again, like talking about Emma and Natalie, and I don't want to go down this road because you all know how I feel, but when you talk about men competing in women's sports, this is what pisses me off so much about it. Because here you have Emma, my daughter, my one 14-year-old, and then Natalie, my other 14-year-old. These young women are busting their asses and sacrificing a lot and dedicating time after school to themselves, to a team, dedicating themselves to a craft, only to potentially have all of those blood, sweat, tears stolen from them by a man who would be competing against them. It's not just from a common sense standpoint. It's insane. It shouldn't happen. Very clear biological differences between men and women, of course, but it just pisses me off for the young women. And, it's like all these young women, I see some people in the live chat saying 14 is a tough age. Let me tell you, yes, 14 is a very, very tough age. I remember being 14. It wasn't very fun, but, it's just not fair to these young women to have opportunities taken from them by men who shouldn't be in their sports anyway. It's just completely wrong. And to parents, to the thousands of people who are watching, listening to the show live, and to the tens of thousands of people that will listen to the show there after we're live. If you're a parent and you have a girl in school that's busting their ass and playing a sport and doing well and sacrificing, and you've got, and obviously under Trump, this is not going to be an issue. Trump has already made it very clear where he stands on this. But my point is, President Trump, I always say he's only going to be in office for the next 4 years. But what I'm asking you to do is don't let your daughters fight alone. One of the things during COVID and people just want to be accepted. Oh, they want to be accepted. Nobody wants to rock no one wants to rock the boat. Rock the boat. If you're a parent or a grandparent and you've got your daughter playing a sport with men, with boys, they could get hurt. Raise hell with the school. Raise hell with the athletic director. Raise hell with your local government officials. Get involved. Don't make these young women fight this out on their own. Oh my gosh, I'm like going way off on a tangent today. Apologies. So we had my family over this weekend. Oh my gosh, I feel like the show's all over the place. Sorry, folks. Had my family over this weekend. Nothing better than having my family over. But I saw this video. It kind of made me laugh because it reminds me, because we live on a small farm in Western Pennsylvania. And I saw this video, and I'll just tell you, this reminds me of my life with Commander Melanie. Just being total noobs in this homesteading farming lifestyle. Check this out.
My wife wanted a few chickens for fresh eggs every day. Now we have 70 chickens in Buckingham Palace. My wife wanted a few chickens for fresh eggs every day. Now we have 4 fat goats and a goat playground. My wife wanted a few chickens for fresh eggs every day. Now we have 9 ducks in the quack shack. My wife wanted a few chickens for eggs every day. But now we have 8 rabbits in a whole bunny village. We wanted a few chickens for fresh eggs every day. Now we've got 2 miniature donkeys in a donkey saloon.
A donkey saloon.
My wife wanted a few chickens for fresh eggs every day. I have a chicken Ferris wheel.
let me tell you. And I heard Aunt Cindy's flag, and Dory posted that on Locals. Yeah, thank you, Dory. I mean, you're amazing. You're just one of the most dedicated members of the Battle Crew. Thank you. But it's so true. This is like farmer's creep. You know, you get a couple chickens and then you need a couple more chickens. And then we've got 4 fat goats. You've got fat over the winter. And then, you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. We've looked at donkeys. We've looked at, livestock animals. I mean, there's been talk of cows every day. Oh, we can have this pasture be cows. Like, this is crazy. It's got to stop somewhere. But I saw that video. I thought you all would get a kick out of it because you all have been with us on this homesteading journey from the very beginning. And speaking of journeys, sorry, I've been talking for 33 minutes now. I'm just getting to some more of the headlines here. But Secretary Hegseth to the border in his first trip to the southern border. And let me tell you, folks, this is a really important one for me. Because all of my time in Afghanistan, I know I've told you many war stories about my time there, and I don't tell you war stories to impress you. I don't tell you war stories to impress you. I just tell you because it was a formative experience in my life, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my time in Afghanistan and getting to serve with my troops and be there with them was amazing. But part of our job in Afghanistan was operating right along the border. That is what we did. We operated right along the Afghan-Pakistan border, and we protected the border of Afghanistan. That was kind of our job: close with and destroy the enemy and protect the Afghan people, right? And we went through 16 months of combat. Like, just to put that into perspective, if you've watched Band of Brothers, and I know you all know that my family watches it once a year. There's a tradition. You all know this. But, Easy Company of the 101st Airborne jumped into Normandy and fought to Hitler's Eagle's Nest in World War II in less time than 485 days. That's how long we were on the Afghan-Pakistan border, hunting down some of the worst of the worst terrorists that this world could possibly conjure up. I mean, we fought against Al-Qaeda. We fought against the Taliban. We fought against the Haqqani network. We fought against Hekmatyar, foreign fighters from all over the world. And yes, I mean all over the world. And we took an 85% casualty rate doing it. And we really took our licks. And we killed 350 enemies of America. I don't lose a wink of sleep over any of that, by the way. We didn't hurt or kill one single civilian. Very, very proud of my service there. But looking back, it does upset me every single day of my life the way that we left Afghanistan. Not because I'm not proud of serving. If this country were ever threatened again, there was another opportunity to serve in combat, protecting this country, I would be the first to sign up, first in line to do it. But I look back on all the time and the blood and the treasure and the sacrifices that were made in Afghanistan. And I ask myself every single day, what was it for? And I find myself asking, I ask myself that all the time. And now in my own mind, I think, well, you can't ask yourself that anymore. You'll drive yourself crazy if you think about that. But there we were. Our mission was to protect Afghanistan's border, all the while leaving our southern border wide open, really. I mean, it wasn't as bad in 2006 as it is today, or as it was under Biden. Of course not. But how could we're a country with borders, a sovereign nation, the United States of America. the world's lone superpower. And we're out there spending trillions of dollars protecting other people's borders. And worse than that, sacrificing the brave men and women who raise the right hand to volunteer to serve because they love this country. They volunteer because they love America. You know, these kids went to Afghanistan and went to Iraq and other places all around the world, then died to protect other people's borders, but we're not protecting our own. So to me, this move by President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, and by the way, I'm glad that Secretary Hegseth is down there in his first trip. But to me, this signals not just, it's obviously it's fulfilling a campaign promise, but it signals to the American people, but also to the world that America is serious about protecting its sovereignty. No more are we going to let other nations take advantage of this country. And no more will we let, 10 million plus illegal aliens stream into our country, many of whom we don't even know who the hell they are. And never forget this, because the left and the media love to do this. They conflate legal immigration with illegal immigration. They like to make it seem like Republicans are against legal immigration, although I think the vast majority of Americans now, and this bears out in polling, are even okay with pausing legal immigration for the time being until we get this crazy, chaotic border situation under control. But I digress. Republicans are opposed to illegal immigration. America is the most generous country on the face of the planet. We let in millions of legal immigrants every single year who come here legally. There's no other nation on the face of the planet that does that. We are under no obligation to take a single illegal alien. Any argument that is presented to you to the contrary, to me, is irrelevant. There's a process that people should use to come into this country legally, the right way. And if you need, if there is a real asylum claim that you have, not economic asylum, that's not the point. That's not why asylum was designed in the first place. There's no economic asylum is just because you feel like you can't get a job in your country, you can't make as much in your country. That's not a reason to come here illegally. It's not a reason to come to America and make an asylum claim, which many people do. They just think that they can make more here. No, I'm talking real life or death political asylum. I'm even okay with making accommodations for that. But America, like if we are, for the last 20 plus years, we have spent American blood and treasure securing other people's borders. It is high time, beyond time, to protect our own. And I'm glad Hegseth is down there. Check this out. There's Secretary Hegseth with Tom Homan trooping the line. Is what it's called, trooping the line down at the southern border. Listen, watch. So listen, part of the reason why my platoon, why I'm proud of, killed 350 enemy fighters and terrorists, really, really, really bad people, some of the worst of the worst, not a single civilian. Part of the reason why my unit was so effective, and just go with me here because this ties to what's happening at our southern border right now. Part of the reason why we were so lethal, we were so effective, is that we had politicians off of our back. We were allowed to do and conduct our mission. Power was given to the smallest level, was passed down to the smallest level for tactical ground commanders to make calls that they thought were in the best interest of their troops. We were allowed to close with and destroy the enemy. We were allowed to use extraordinary American firepower, whether it's mortars, artillery, rotary wing assets or fixed wing assets to destroy the enemy. We didn't have an overly restrictive rules of engagement. And interestingly enough, when we were empowered to do our jobs as warfighters, as the infantry, we did it exceptionally well. Not a single civilian death. When civilian deaths started to occur in Afghanistan is when they removed that power from tactical ground combatant commanders. And all of a sudden, the approval authority for an airstrike was up at a general that might take 10 minutes from ground to the general to a strategic level asset to give them clearance of fires or not. Sometimes American troops in Afghanistan and definitely in Iraq, as the war drew on, you weren't even allowed to return fire in the vicinity of an Afghan or Iraqi home. That's insane to me. When our politicians and our generals do something like that to the warfighters, they communicate to the warfighters that the lives of the enemy are more important than American troops. To me, that's just how American troops take it. That they're just cannon fodder. That my bosses will sacrifice my life and not allow me to do my job and to return fire. Because believe me when I tell you, American troops with good officers on the ground, and by the way, the vast majority of young platoon leaders and officers in the American military, they know when to shoot or not. They know when to return fire or not. You don't need some general telling you. But the reason why we're so effective is because we got to do our job. That's the point. And if you look at so many of these videos with Hegseth at the border with Tom Homan, what you see on the faces of our troops, big smiles. What you see on the faces of our border patrol, big smiles. They're happy. Why do you think that is? Because our border patrol, they get to do their job. They get to protect this country. They're not just helping illegal aliens flood into our country, which is what they were doing under Biden. No, they get to protect our borders, which is what they signed up to do. American troops down there with Pete Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth, they get to protect our sovereign nation, not some other nation's border, America. That is why these men and women signed up, to protect this country. These men and women who joined the military and the Border Patrol, they volunteer to do it. And when they're given the opportunity and empowered to make calls on the ground that they think are in the best interest of protecting this country, they do their job exceptionally well, and they're extraordinarily fulfilled doing it. Not saying that it doesn't suck sometimes. Yeah, if a cartel gangbanger in Mexico is shooting at you from across the border, yeah, that sucks. It sucks getting shot at. It's not fun. But the point is they get to do their job. And for Pete Hegseth and Tom Homan to be there, I'm telling you, so much about leadership. What do I tell you, folks? So much about leadership is just showing up. When you're a platoon leader in combat, your job is to be the first into the fight. Your job as an infantry platoon leader is to lead the assault, first into the fire, last off the battlefield. When your soldiers are tucked in the trenches and are in their foxholes at night, it's your job when they're all nestled in, dug in like ticks, to go around, troop the line, to check on them. And then further, the very best platoon leaders in combat orient themselves at the exact spot they believe contact will be heaviest. That is a leader's job, to show up. You don't inspire your troops or your people sitting behind a desk. You inspire your people through action. It doesn't mean you have to have all the answers. You won't. I could certainly tell you I knew how to fire an M240 Bravo machine gun. I knew how to fire a Mark 19 grenade launcher. I knew how to fire a 50 caliber machine gun on one of our gun trucks. I knew how to operate every weapon system in my platoon, but I wasn't an expert. My soldiers were freaking amazing with those weapon systems. They were the experts. You don't have to have all the expertise in the world. You just got to show up. You just got to show your men, your people, men and women. Back in my day, it was just men in the infantry. But you just got to show your people that you're willing to do what they are that they are doing. You're willing to put yourself at risk. And so for Tom Homan and Pete Hegseth, in one of their first trips to show up down there with these men and women who are holding the line for America on our southern border, it means a lot. It means a lot to those, to the men and women of the Border Patrol, and it means a lot to our troops who are down there holding the line for our country. Because it's not easy. You know, you have a $1 trillion, essentially, Democrat super PAC in the American media constantly attacking President Trump and Republicans and Secretary Hegseth, making up all these false stories, ironically arguing for what is essentially the invasion of our country. I mean, the media, they were completely fine for 4 years of open borders under Biden. You realize that. They never pushed Joe Biden. They didn't even question for a second Biden's mental fitness, his cognitive health. I mean, seriously, think about that. I mean, they not only did they not aggressively report on the border, they essentially advocated for a position which facilitated the invasion of our country during a time where we still face very grave asymmetric threats to our country. You see. And then it's just kind of unbelievable to me. And so it isn't going to be easy for these men and women on the border protecting us, because they are going to be attacked both by the cartels, if they're in the case of the southern border, and they're going to be attacked by the American media. And they're going to be attacked by Democrats in Congress for whatever reason they want this invasion. And President Trump over the weekend, after the show on Friday, or I think it was maybe have been right before the show on Friday, I can't quite remember, he put a 25% tariff both on Mexico and Canada and a 10% tariff on China. And his reasoning was like, hey, listen, Canada and Mexico, they allow illegal aliens to flow into our country, and they allow fentanyl to flow into our country. And until they make a commitment, a real tangible commitment to stop that, they're going to pay these 25% tariffs. And let me tell you something. The media all weekend long, along with the Democrats, freaked out about it. Said President Trump is going to get us into a trade war. Oh, and Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, did a press conference and said, Super Bowl weekend's coming up, and he pulls out a Corona. Not even exaggerating. He's at the podium. He pulls out a Corona and he goes, "Next Super Bowl weekend, this beer is made in Mexico. Price of that beer is going to go up." And then from underneath the podium, he pulls up an avocado. And he's like, "Oh, you like guacamole? Guess what? Guacamole dip just is going to go up because President Trump is creating this trade war, blah, blah, blah." Meanwhile, and again, what they're essentially arguing for here is that the invasion should continue and there should be no repercussions on Mexico or Canada for imbalanced trade agreements. There should be no repercussions on Canada or Mexico for allowing fentanyl to flow into our country. And by the way, number one killer of Americans aged 18 to 45. Over 200,000, President Trump said today, over 200,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. That to me is almost like a weapon of mass destruction, manufactured in China, exploited by the cartels, helped shipped into the country by the cartels, killing Americans, 200,000 dead. A bomb was dropped. God, I hope this never, ever happens. But if 200,000 people were killed in an attack, like, do you think that might like piss some Americans off? Yeah, it's the commander-in-chief's job to protect the American people. So here you have Chuck Schumer. Seriously. Your beer's going to get more expensive. Your guac's going to get more expensive. Meanwhile, we have had over 10.5 million people flow into this country, and that's just the gotaways under 4 years under President Biden. The number is likely over 20 million. We don't know who these people are. We don't know where they came from. and 500,000, between 350 and 500,000 missing children sold into slavery or sex trafficked. But the Democrats' messaging is, hey, your price of beer and guac is going to go up. Do you even hear yourself? This is why I say not only is the Democrat Party lost, but President Trump is right on the money with this stuff. And here's President Trump talking about, so the interesting thing is that Canada, after 3 days of histrionics by the media, Canada went back on, Canada said, okay, we're going to send 10,000 troops to the border and we're going to do everything we can. Let me see what they actually said they're going to do here. 10,000 troops dispatched to safeguard the border under Trump's pressure. Looks like Trudeau concedes a 30-day delay on U.S. tariffs. U.S.-Mexico joint force to combat crime and the flow of fentanyl. So basically, Mexico and Canada both capitulated to President Trump's demand. Okay, let me tell you very quickly. I'm going to keep talking about this, but I've been talking the whole darn show. Let me tell you about Good Ranchers. Ready to skip the takeout and enjoy top-tier American-made meat right in your own kitchen? Well, Good Ranchers is offering you premium 100% American meat for a whole year so you can do just that. Subscribe today and get your free salmon, ground beef, or chicken breast in every order until 2026 with promo code VNN. And that's at goodranchers.com/VNN. There's something special about a homemade meal, especially when it's made with the finest homegrown ingredients. Whether you're trying to eat healthier, enjoy more moments with the family, or spend less money on going out to eat, goodranchers.com/VNN is American meat delivered. When you buy your meat from Good Ranchers, you're directly supporting local farms and ranches in the United States while skipping imported meat and the hassle of the grocery store. Nobody likes that. So don't wait. Now's the time to subscribe to any box of their high-quality, 100% American meat and wild-caught seafood. Just use the promo code VNN. You'll get $25 off, free express shipping, and your choice of free ground beef, chicken, or salmon in every order delivered for an entire year. Start 2025 with better choices, better meals, and better moments at home. Remember to visit goodranchers.com/VNN and use the promo code VNN today. So look, Canada, Mexico, both capitulate. Also, if you're still listening, watching, which I know thousands of you are, make sure you smash that like button, the little gray thumb beneath the video. When you smash it, it turns green. Let's try to get to 400 likes before the end of the show. Let's try to do it, folks. So couple days of President Trump just threatening tariffs, and Mexico and Canada have both come to the table and said, okay, send 10,000 troops to the border. We're going to do a hell of a lot more to stop the flow of fentanyl into the country. And Mexican authorities just today, captured and detained the leader of Cartel Day, Norris Day. His name's El Ricky, a notorious cartel leader. And for people that might not know, and by the way, this is from our friend Dan Nunn over at the Nunn Report. If you're not following Dan Nunn at the Nunn Report, you should do it because he's got a good show. But Canada already hits America with tariffs. Do you know this, right? So people that are like, Trump's going to start a trade war. No, our trade arrangements with Canada and Mexico are just unjustly imbalanced. I mean, Canada hits America with a 270%, cheese 245% tariff, butter 298, chicken 238, sausage is 69.9%, barley seed 57%, bovine meat 25%, cars 25%, HVAC 45%, vacuums 35%, cable boxes 30%. You get the gist, right? Canada is already like they're screwing us over in an unfair trade agreement. So President Trump we have all the leverage. We have a bigger, more powerful economy. President Trump is right to advocate for the American people and fight for better deals. And it took 3 days in the case of Canada and Mexico to do it. Both Canada and Mexico have both come to the table to negotiate with President Trump. So you see, the media, 3 days of histrionics, Chuck Schumer pulling out a can of Corona and an avocado, threatening people that their beer and guac will go up. Histrionics for nothing because what President Trump did worked. and it worked really well. One of the other things that Secretary Hegseth did over the weekend, I think it was Friday night, the Pentagon informed the press corps there that NBC, the New York Times, and NPR and Politico will rotate out of the building to give space to the New York Post, Breitbart, OAN, and the Huffington Post. So the media, they have been melting down about this. Now, here's the deal, folks. These media outlets, you're talking NBC, New York Times, NPR, and Politico, they all have offices in the Pentagon. I'm not sure if they pay rent for these offices or not, but they all have offices given to them by the Department of Defense. Full access. Now, why? Why should NBC, the New York Times, NPR, and Politico have exclusive access to these office spaces? No one's saying they can't go to the press briefing every single day. They haven't been kicked out. I mean, their press passes haven't been revoked. We're just saying the Pentagon is just saying New York Post, Breitbart, OAN, and the Huffington Post now will get a chance to post up in these offices. Give access to more media outlets. I mean, it seems to me to be very eminently reasonable. But the media has been freaking out about that too. They've been saying, I mean, people have been saying, just so you know, this is how propaganda happened. Oh, this is for propaganda purposes. Really? The Huff Post was allowed to set up the Huff Post isn't exactly known for being a bastion of conservatism. And this is only in effect till 2026. And then I'm sure there might even be a rotation before that. I don't know, where we're rotating people in and out of these offices to give other media outlets a chance. Seems eminently fair to me. So the point is that the media, they're going to do whatever they can to smear what, President Trump, and in this case, Secretary Hegseth, do, because they have nothing else. President Trump is wildly popular. What Secretary Hegseth is doing is also wildly popular. This is why people voted for President Trump. And did you see the story with Walter Reed, where Walter Reed has been flooded for God knows how long? I assume most of the Biden administration. You wouldn't know it because then a single Pentagon press reporter went down there to report on the condition of Walter Reed, at least to my knowledge. But the hospital was flooded. And it was discovered by Secretary Hegseth and some of his senior advisors this weekend. And immediately, Secretary of Defense responds, this story is real. We know about it. We're going to fix it. But my question is, seriously, you're the Secretary of Defense, Austin. Look, I'm not trying to throw shade at people who have left the office. But if you're the Secretary of Defense, you're Secretary of Defense, Austin, and you know the condition, the horrible condition of Walter Reed, and you're not saying to the President of the United States and President Biden, hey, sir, I don't care about deferred maintenance. Okay? I don't care about deferred maintenance. This hospital should be in better condition. This hospital, houses our wounded warriors, find the money in the budget. I don't care. Do what's necessary to fix this hospital. So, okay, Secretary of Defense doesn't do that. But what about the 3-star in charge of Walter Reed? How is that person not going to the Secretary of Defense every day saying, I need the money to fix this hospital? This is unacceptable. How about the doctors? How about whistleblowers? Anybody? The media? Nobody decided that this was important to report on? Our warfighters deserve better. And under the Trump administration and Secretary Hegseth, they're going to get a hell of a lot better. All right, I got to tell you about My Patriot Supply. We've all seen the headlines: cyber attacks on our power grids, drones in the sky, violent attacks on everyday Americans. The ugly truth is no leader, no system can protect you from everything. And the last thing I want is to be standing in line depending on help that may not ever come. And when a crisis hits, food is always the first casualty. Everyone needs it, and panic buying makes things worse. That's why I've made sure my family is prepared with My Patriot Supply. Their 4-week emergency food kit gives you the nutrition you need to stay strong in a crisis. 2,000 calories a day, 100% of your daily value of 12 essential vitamins and minerals. This kit keeps you going when every meal matters. Right now, they're offering their $50 off their 4-week emergency food kit. All you got to do, go to preparewithvnn.com now to grab yours. Do not put this off. Now is the time to prepare. That's preparewithvnn.com to get your 4-week emergency food kit today. Okay. Let me tell you, first of all, Codger, Sean's Chicken Fund. Well, thank you, Codger. But admittedly, we do not need any more chickens in Fort Parnell. And Regina, she said, Sean and Melanie, keep supporting the kids. Regina, thank you. And to Codger, thank you both for the Rumble Rants tips. Really appreciate it. Doc says Rumble for Sean's Flannel Fund. Yeah, look, this is what I do. This says, right, wait. I'm not a weather person, so it's all backwards. This says Poncho right here, best shirts in the world. No, Poncho doesn't pay me. But anyways, folks, pay attention to some of the announcements that are being made by President Trump. There might be a pretty cool one coming down the pike. All of President Trump's announcements are amazing. But smash that like button on your way out. And as always, folks, I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to Battleground Live. That's it for us tonight. God bless you all. God bless this amazing country that we call home. Take care. Good night. I will see you tomorrow.